All right, guys, welcome back to Recoil TV's Training Tune-Ups. I'm Joe Farewell with Farewell Firearms Training, and I'm excited to bring you on today. We're gonna be talking about dry fire, how to do it effectively, how to actually get the most training value possible out of the drills that you're doing on the range or at home. All right, so this video is not a whole bunch of drills that you can use for dry fire or live fire, but more along the lines of the mindset that goes into it and how we actually capitalize and apply what we do in dry fire to the live fire range. So one thing I noticed is a lot of people have differing times. They'll have a smoking dry fire time, and they'll have the live fire that just doesn't match up with that. If that's the case, if that's you, look at what you're doing in dry fire. Are you cheating yourself? You need to make sure that you're being honest with your dry fire. Are you actually seeing your sights? Are you prepping the trigger properly? Are you going through the processes correctly, or are you just trying to blow through to get the fastest time? Now, one thing that's gonna help you track this and be honest with yourself is having a good shot timer. Whether that's the packs that I'm using here, the Pocket Pro 2, the CED 7000, the Commander. There's all sorts of timers out there. Highly recommend you pick one up. It's going to be one of the most beneficial training tools that you can pick up to start to grow yourself. Keep in mind, if you have any questions on training tools, on equipment for 3-gun or shooting in general, be sure to hit my website, farewellfirearms.com. I have a full 3-gun gear guide on that website. On the front page, check it out. You can download it for free. Now, as we dive into the thought process behind this, I want to make sure that I'm doing things properly. So when I get out to the range, I want to get a baseline time. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We've got a simple drill set up, and this applies for not just pistol, but rifle, shotgun, transitions, anything that you're doing in dry fire. We want to get a baseline in live fire so we can start to build on that and confirm if our times are correct. So what we're gonna do is I got 2 targets set up about 3 or 4 yards apart, 7 yards back. I just want to get 2 alphas, do a reload, 2 alphas, 2 alphas. Let's go ahead and run this drill with pistol, see what we can come up with, get a good baseline to build off of, all right? So, stand by. All right, so that time was a 482. All right, and what we want to do is we want to go ahead and track this time. We want to have either a training journal that you start to write these things down, or just keep track of it in your head. You can kind of get a baseline, but I recommend to have a training journal or put it into your phone. Keep track of where you're at. So let's write this stuff down. All right, so here's what I'm doing. I've got 2 targets at 3 yards apart at 7 yards. The first shot was in 1.26 seconds. All right, so I know there's a little bit of room that I can grow there. Okay, the total time was 482. So we'll put this 4.82. All right, now we want to get into the important parts here. Okay, we have a 31 split, a 35 transition, and a 32 split. Okay, so we'll say a 35.35 transition, with a 144 reload, 1.44 reload. And then after that, we had a 0.5 transition. So we know we need to bring that up a little bit faster. From the 35 transition, that's pretty consistent, and then we added on 15/100. So we're losing a little bit of time there, okay, with a 34 split. So average about 30 to 35 split on those targets, which I know I can push that a whole lot faster, but I'm looking for consistency here. So now we have a baseline, right? We have the first shot 126, we have a 35 transition between targets, a 144 reload, followed by a 50 transition between those 2 targets. Once we've got that baseline down, now we can start pushing the dry fire side of it. All right, so now that we know that our baseline is 482 for the whole drill, what I want to do is set a goal. So for instance, this goal might be, I want to have this done in under 4.5 seconds. It's pretty achievable. So we're going to set a delay time here. I'm going to go ahead and set a par time of 0.5 and then add 4 seconds on here. So 4.5 seconds total time. Now I'm going to go ahead and run the same drill, and you can do this on the range, you can do it at home, but I'm going to run the same drill with the par time set and see if I can start to achieve, if I can see where, if I achieve it, great. If I can see where I break down at that time, maybe I know where I need to train on, okay? So with a 4.5 second par time, I'm gonna go ahead and put a mag in there. I got no rounds in the gun. And we're gonna go ahead and try this drill out, all right? Stand by. Well, there you go. We've got one area that we need to work on. That time we made the part time, that 4.5 second part time. Everything felt really smooth there. I saw my sights, I felt the trigger every single time. Now you notice I'm not pressing the trigger. And what I'm doing here is I'm simply bringing it to that point where it's about to go off and I'm releasing it. And that's signifying the shot going off, but I don't actually need to press the trigger. What that allows me to do is I'm feeling that point every single time and not just slapping a dead trigger. Something I would encourage you to do. It's a little dry fire tip for you there. Okay, so let's run it again live and see what we can do to match that and see if we can get down below that 4.5 second part time live fire now that we put a couple reps in on dry fire. All right, so that time we got it into 394, which obviously that's down below our 4.5 second mark. First shot we got in at 106. We shaved off about a 0.2 of a second there. We had a 33 transition over, a 118 reload. So we definitely cleaned up that reload a good bit, and then a 38 transition back. So we cleaned up that 0.2 or let's see, what was it, 0.5. We'll go back and look at the board and see what we actually end up with. But let's look at the hits real quick. All the hits are here. So we've got 4 alphas on this one and 4 alphas on this one. And let's go ahead and check out the board. All right, so after dry fire, we had a first shot of 1.06. We had a 0.33 transition. And then we had a 118 reload, 1.18 reload. It's hard to do this in the wind. Okay, 38 transition. And a total time of 3.94. All right, guys, so there you have it. There's a couple of ways to just get the most you can out of your dry fire. Like I said, keep track of your progress, compare it in your dry fire times to your live fire times, make sure they're matching up. Don't cheat yourself, make sure you're actually seeing your sights, working the trigger, pushing the areas that you need to push, like I did with that reload. And then understand that it's not just for pistols, not just for one drill, but you can get more and more data across everything. A few months ago, I worked with a student out here on a private session, and we got a ton of data. I mean, each one of these numbers is a shot fired or 2 shots fired. And it's a lot of data that gave him a really good baseline of where he was as a shooter, what we need to work on, and now we can track his progress. So it gives you the ability to basically say, okay, back in June, I was at this point and this is my times, and now I'm up to here. My dry fire is paying off, because sometimes it just feels like we're putting in all the reps, we're not getting the payoff. So a couple tips I'll leave you with. Number one, make sure that you're focusing while you do it. Don't get lax, don't become passive in your dry fire. Actually put the focus in on what you're working on. If you feel yourself slipping, call it a day. Take a break, go do something else, come back to it later or the next day. Number two, make sure you're comparing your times with your live fire times. You don't want to sit there and get in that trap of cheating yourself, pushing stuff too fast when you actually can't execute it on the live fire side. And number three, keep track of things. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you get a lot of training value out of it. If you have any questions or you want to see something on the next training tune-up, be sure to drop me a message on social media or visit me on my website, farewellfarms.com. Until next time, enjoy this RECOILtv training tune-up. Y'all have a great day on the range.